Colorado has some of the lowest property taxes in the country. That part is true, but with a Denver new build, Metro District taxes can double or even triple your bill. And that's just one of 5 hidden costs you need to understand before falling for a listing. After years in the real estate market, let me show you what most buyers don't discover until after they've signed. If you're coming from a place where the median home price is in the mid 400s, Denver can be a bit of a shock. At that price point here, you're more likely looking at condos and townhomes, less square footage, an older home maybe that needs some work, or a location that's not the neighborhood you were picturing. Denver does have starter homes, but Colorado's version of it just may not match the picture in your head, and knowing that now can save you a lot of wasted weekends. The median home price across the Denver metro area is about $600,000. That's actually a great entry point into our market for a single-family home in certain neighborhoods. In that $500,000 to $600,000 price range, you can get a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house in some parts of town. It might need some updates, not in the most popular neighborhoods, but some solid neighborhoods nonetheless. And when we get into soil and inspection issues later, you'll see why the price you pay and the cost to own the home can be 2 different numbers. So if $500,000 to $600,000 is entry level for a single family home, what does the next price tier get you? Around that $700,000 range, the search starts to change. You're still making trade-offs, of course, but you start getting more say in which trade-offs you're comfortable with. $700,000 to $800,000 can get you an updated home with closer to 3,000 square feet in some desirable neighborhoods. Depending on what part of town you're in, these homes can be completely updated. There's some great new construction in this price point too. We'll talk about new construction property taxes in just a minute. Again, like anything, there are trade-offs based on your needs for size, location, schools, lot size, and home type. Under $1 million is not luxury territory in Denver Metro. It just gives you enough room to balance the search without ever feeling like you're settling. But price is only part of it, because the next thing you need to understand is what the market is doing right now, because I don't think most agents are saying this clearly enough. You'll hear people call this market stable, and I get why they use that word. After all, prices aren't falling off a cliff, and they're not taking off like they did during the low interest rate years, but that doesn't tell the full picture. Sellers are having to work harder than they did a couple of years ago to get their homes actually sold, and buyers in most parts of the market have real choices in front of them. It's a bit of a split market. Ordinary homes, meaning the ones that aren't priced well, don't show well, or sit in a slower pocket of the metro area, need more time and more strategy. But the best homes in the right location with the right price, they're still moving very fast. Now, the all-out bidding wars from the low interest rate years are mostly gone, but good houses still don't sit around forever. The 30-year fixed rate is in the mid to upper 6s right now, and a $700,000 home comes with a monthly payment that many sellers have never had to pay themselves. When I sit down with a seller, I like to actually bring a mortgage estimate for what their buyer would pay each month. It changes the conversation fast, because now we're talking about what the home has to prove at that payment. I cannot stress this enough. Buyers are being very picky because the payment is so real, and not because Denver is cheap now. And when we get to hail and insurance later, those costs get added on top of the payment. It can feel very different from the listing price that you were thinking of. Now, if this is where you are right now, you've done some research, you know Denver is where you want to be, you're trying to figure out what buying here looks like, this is what I help people with every single day. We look at what they want in a home, work with the budget, and then move backwards to figure out what part of town and what home type is going to be best for them. All of my contact info is in the description below, so please feel free to reach out and let's get you oriented before you start touring. Before you can understand what a home costs here, you need to understand what's sitting under it, and that starts with the ground itself. Imagine this for a moment. A buyer walks through a beautiful older home in the metro. Good bones, great neighborhood, priced well. They're thinking about the kitchen, the layout, the commute, but in my mind, I'm thinking about what's underneath the home. Can we get down to the basement or the crawl space? In Denver, there are 2 things specific to this market worth understanding before you first home. And the first one is soil. A lot of the Front Range sits on what's known as bentonite clay. That's a type of soil that swells and shrinks when moisture changes. The Colorado Geological Survey calls it the most significant geological hazard in the state. Now, this isn't happening all the time. It's not always a major red flag. It shouldn't be sounding alarm bells in your brain, but it does come up occasionally. Sometimes during a home inspection, the inspector will spot signs of potential foundation shifting or cracking, and if that happens, I recommend hiring a licensed structural engineer to take a closer look and tell us whether there's a bigger issue and if anything can or should be done to mitigate damage or repair the home. Sometimes it's cosmetic, but other times it's real repair money. Now, the honest answer is most of this can be fixed, but the bigger question is whether you're comfortable owning it and one day reselling a home with foundation history on the record. Newer construction has been engineered around this more than older homes, and settling can still happen across the metro no matter what, so it's something that we pay attention to up front. Now, the second thing to pay attention to is radon gas. About half of Colorado homes test above the EPA action level for radon, and Denver is considered a high-risk area. So I recommend every home buyer get a radon test along with their general home inspection. If radon levels come back high, we always ask the seller to install a radon mitigation system, kind of setup you'll see on the side of many homes here to take care of that issue. Again, this is not a panic item. Most of the time, the seller obliges and says, yes, absolutely, we'll take care of that for you. Runs them $1,500 to $2,500. And for those of you looking at new construction, this connects a bit to the Metro District tax conversation we're about to have, so stay tuned. Now, if you're buying a brand new build, the builder doesn't have to install a full active mitigation system before you move in. They may install a passive pipe, which means there's no fan. So you still need to test after you move in or before you buy, I would say. And you may need to add the fan at your expense later. So budget for it from day one if you're looking at new construction. From there, we need to get into the tax side because this is the one that surprises buyers more than anything else. I'll repeat my opening line. Colorado has one of the lowest property tax rates in the entire country. That part is true. However, when you're looking at new construction around Denver, that doesn't necessarily hold true. Most brand new communities in the Denver area sit inside what's called a special metro taxing district. If you haven't heard of that term before, a metro district is a separate taxing entity that helps pay for the infrastructure in a new development. We're talking about roads, sewer lines, and the other pieces needed to build a community out. So the people who live in those communities there help pay for those things, and on paper, that makes sense. But when you compare two similarly sized homes side by side, one in a metro district with a much higher monthly payment than one outside of a metro district. And that's where buyers get caught by surprise. New construction communities in Aurora, Parker, Littleton, Castle Rock, just to name a few, can carry property taxes 2 to 3 times higher than a home of a similar price outside of a special metro district. And that's because those homeowners are still helping pay off the debt that built the neighborhood. So while my clients from Texas and California, New York are generally surprised by the low property taxes, some neighborhoods do catch them off guard. So don't just ask what the home price is, ask what the mill levy is and how the metro district is structured. Those two questions will tell you a lot more about your real monthly cost and the future of the community than the listing price by itself. And the cost conversation isn't done yet. There's one more ownership expense in Denver that catches buyers after they've already signed. Most buyers spend a lot of time thinking about the purchase price, but they don't spend nearly enough time thinking about what the home costs to own. Hail and insurance is where that shows up fast. The National Weather Service calls the Nebraska, Colorado, Wyoming corridor Hail Alley. It's the most hail-active stretch in the entire country, and if you've lived here for even one summer, you may know why. These storms can sometimes bring softball-sized hail. They can do real damage to roofs, crack windows, tear up siding in just one afternoon, so of course that shows up in your insurance costs. Homeowners insurance rates in Colorado are among the highest in the country, and they doubled between 2020 and 2025. The state's own data shows hail, not wildfire, is the single biggest reason why, though wildfire is a big contributor in the mountains, and in some places it can make up as much as half of your annual premium. Colorado did pass new legislation to help fund grants for impact-resistant roof upgrades, which should and hopefully eventually help with the cost of insurance. So the folks at the state capitol are certainly working on it. It's a step in the right direction, but we're still early on in this process. So my advice is simple. Quote your insurance before you fall in love with the house. Ask how old the roof is, what the material is, and make sure you understand your wind and hail deductible. And besides the hail and insurance problem, there's also the altitude problem. Problem is maybe a little bit of a strong word. Denver sits at a mile high, 5,280 feet, and that number matters more than people think when they first move here. Your body may need a few days to adjust to the altitude. Your first long run, hard workout, or ski day will tell you pretty quickly. So you can feel slower, can get tired faster, and dehydration can really sneak up on you. Also, let's be honest, a couple of drinks at elevation, that can feel like 4 drinks. The Cleveland Clinic recommends going easy on alcohol, drinking more fluids during those first few days here. Definitely good advice. For most people, you get acclimated. It all passes. You just need to give yourself a little time. And if you're heading into the mountains, remember the ski resorts are even higher. A lot of them sit between 8,000 and sometimes nearly 11,000 feet at the base because altitude sickness up there is real, especially if you're new to Colorado. And that's something you want to know before you go. Now you know what to ask before you ever make an offer on a home in the Denver area, and that changes the whole conversation. If you're getting serious about buying in Denver and you want to work through the real numbers before you fall in love with the listing, taxes, insurance, inspections, all of it, email me, ryan@ryanhaarer.com today. And if you still haven't narrowed down where in the metro you want to live, the next video is the one I would watch. I'll walk you through how the Denver metro is laid out, where the different areas sit, and how to start making sense of it before you book showings. I'm Ryan Haarer, Denver real estate agent. I'll see you on the next one.